Well, listen to this. The death of a woman at a jail in Amador County while on a visit is now being investigated as a homicide. It happened last Wednesday at Mule Creek State Prison when 62-year-old Stephanie Diane Brinson was visiting her husband. He's an inmate there.
It was about 2 a.m. on November 13th, 2024, at Mule Creek State Prison. What began as an ordinary conjugal visit between Stephanie Dowles and her husband, David Brinson, was about to take a devastating turn, one that would leave her family reeling and the community questioning how a man with such a violent past was ever allowed such privileges. For Stephanie Dowles, this visit to the prison was supposed to be just another moment of connection with the man she had married, despite the fact that he was serving a life sentence for brutally murdering 4 men. But little did she know that this would be the last time she would step outside the prison alive. As Stephanie's family mourned, they soon discovered that her death was no mere accident. It wasn't a stroke or a sudden medical condition that had taken her life. The truth would soon come to light, and it was far more chilling than anyone could have imagined. But before we begin, I want to thank you, my amazing viewers and subscribers, for your support through your likes, shares, and comments. Your engagements help make these stories more meaningful. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community of true crime enthusiasts.
I don't much like to do videos because I don't like the way I look in pictures. But this morning after my run, or during my run, I was talking to God and just saying how much pain I'm always feeling. And why do I have to go through so much? I realized, I'm a pretty happy person. I got a lot of great things going, but I suffer a lot of heartaches. And I feel like maybe somebody else can attest to this. You might be a very giving person, and a lot of times you do a lot of wonderful things. But I've been praying for like 45, 50 days now, the same thing. And God told me that, my heart needs to be even softer. And I was like, oh my God, I've suffered hundreds of thousands of dollars in loss because my heart being soft, people walking over me doing things. What could you possibly be talking about? And I'm like, but there is something I harbor deep in my heart, kind of a little hatred for someone. And I've been praying and asking God, please take this away. Don't let me feel like this. And he said, I'm a God of my word, Stevie. He said, I truly love you, and I know your heart and that you love people. He said, but you have somebody that you hate, and that's my child. And I was like, God, but the wrong that was done. And he said, well, greater wrong had been done to my son. He said, but he still loved you enough to save your soul. And I said, I understand, God, but I'm not him. I'm not Jesus. What do you want me to do? How can I get rid of this? And he said, you need to fall in love with Jesus. And I said, I love the Lord. He said, no, fall in love with Jesus. If you fall in love with Jesus, nothing can really hurt you like that. Nothing.
Stephanie Dowles was more than just a mother and grandmother. She was the very embodiment of selflessness. A woman whose heart seemed to have no bounds, Stephanie was always there for those in need, offering a hand to anyone she came across. Known for her kindness and generosity, she had a special way of making everyone feel welcome and loved, from her 2 sons to the many others who crossed her path. Her 6 grandchildren were the cornerstone of her world, her deepest joy. But Stephanie's capacity to love didn't stop with her family. She had an incredible ability to show compassion to those outside her immediate circle. Whether it was organizing charity drives with her church to help homeless families, or personally delivering essentials like blankets, clothing, and furniture, Stephanie worked tirelessly to provide relief to those who needed it most.
Hi, everybody. I hope I'm doing this right. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you so much to everyone that donated, to the family, the mom, and the 4 children. You guys, so amazing. Brought everything to the salon. We got everything from washcloths, sheets, blankets, to full furniture, couches, bedroom sets, just you name it, everything. The house is completely furnished. The kids are exciting. I don't know if everybody knew the story. There was brought to my attention a family that witnessed a murder. However, the family was homeless. So the police with Department of Social Services did put them in a place, so they're not on the streets anymore. However, they had absolutely nothing in the house. So Harry Lee helped me out, and we put word out on the street and through email, and we got plenty of donations. So I just want to thank everybody so much for your prayers. Those of you who didn't physically have anything to donate, thank you so much though anyway. Everybody have a wonderful, blessed day. Bye-bye.
Beyond the large gestures, Stephanie's kindness showed up in the small moments too. She often spent her time running errands or chatting with elderly neighbors, offering a comforting presence to those who didn't have family nearby. It wasn't just about grand acts. It was about showing up when it mattered most. Whether it was a hot meal or a fresh bouquet of flowers, Stephanie was always ready to brighten someone's day with her warmth. One of her most memorable acts of kindness came when a 95-year-old woman in her community needed a wheelchair. Without hesitation, Stephanie sent out a quick email to her network asking for help. Within minutes, the community rallied around her, providing not 1 but 2 wheelchairs, 1 manual and 1 electric. Her community's response was a testament to the impact of Stephanie's giving spirit and how much she was cherished by those around her. Stephanie's ability to connect with others, regardless of their past, was something truly unique. She saw the best in everyone, always giving people a chance, and she did so with a grace and humility that made people feel seen and valued. Outside of her deep commitment to her family and community, Stephanie also knew how to embrace the joys of life.
Hey, I just got the message from this morning that Dee Dee said if we do 25 jumping jacks and post it on our page, post it on the challenge page, and then tag a couple of friends, we could get 3 tickets added to a pot that gives us a chance at getting $50. And since I've been lucky a few times, I think I'm going to try it again. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Whether she was attending local events or spending time at neighborhood gatherings, Stephanie's enthusiasm for life was infectious. You could often find her enjoying the tunes at the Playboy Jazz Festival with family or cheering on teams. She was completely immersed in the energy of the moment. Stephanie loved staying active and engaged with the world around her, always seeking new experiences to savor.
It's me, Stevie. It's my birthday guest, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for all the wonderful text messages this morning and the birthday wishes on Facebook. I'm very excited about this day. I'm going to have a great day. In fact, this whole year has been the best year I've had consistently.
Stephanie's birthday was always a special occasion, one of the few times she truly felt the love and appreciation she so often gave to others. On that day, her family and friends gathered around, showering her with gifts, celebrating not just the passage of time, but the profound impact she had on their lives. Messages of love and gratitude flooded in from all sides, reminding Stephanie just how deeply she was cherished. Surrounded by the warmth of her loved ones, she basked in the affection she so rightfully deserved. Despite the challenges life had thrown her way, Stephanie remained the rock her family and friends leaned on. Whether helping a friend navigate a difficult divorce or offering donations to families in need, she was always ready to lift others up, no matter her own struggles. Her life had been a series of selfless acts, each one a testament to her unwavering desire to make the world a better place. Yet underneath all the love and joy Stephanie radiated, there was a part of her that remained a mystery, a part of her that, for reasons her family struggled to understand, led her down a path that would change everything. In 1993, David Brinson was convicted of the execution-style murders of 4 men during a robbery in Los Angeles. The crime was brutal, calculated, and unforgivable, a man who had taken lives without remorse. His conviction was straightforward, and the life sentence that followed seemed just. He would never walk free again. But somewhere, within the confines of Mule Creek State Prison, an unexpected connection began to form. David and Stephanie started exchanging letters. What began as simple correspondence, a woman reaching out to offer comfort to a man who seemed lost, slowly grew into something much deeper. Both shared a strong faith in God, a bond that began to solidify between them. Stephanie, with her compassionate heart, believed that even someone as deeply broken as David could find redemption. She was convinced that everyone deserves a second chance, no matter their past. Her family, however, was skeptical. They didn't understand why Stephanie would reach out to someone who had taken so much from the world. They questioned her decision to connect with a man so far removed from the life she had built. Yet, despite their concerns, Stephanie remained unwavering in her belief that love and faith could reach even the darkest corners of a person's soul. Over time, their letters turned into visits, and what began as an unlikely friendship blossomed into a relationship that would soon change Stephanie's life forever. The day Stephanie chose to marry David, despite knowing he would never leave prison, left her family devastated. To them, it made no sense. How could she tie her future to a man who had caused so much pain? But for Stephanie, the decision wasn't about logic. It was about redemption and forgiveness, values she held dear. Her belief in the possibility of change outweighed the doubts and fears of those around her. Stephanie's life had always been about giving, whether it was her time, her love, or her energy. She never hesitated to share herself with others. Somehow, she saw her relationship with David as another opportunity to extend that love, to give someone a second chance. But, as fate would have it, this very openness, her willingness to believe in redemption, would lead her down a tragic path. No one, not even Stephanie, could have imagined the devastating turn her life would take that fateful night. On the early hours of November 13th, 2024, tragedy would strike, and Stephanie's belief in the goodness of others would be shattered in the most unimaginable way. By November 2024, Stephanie Dowles and David Brinson had been married for several years. Their relationship, unconventional as it may have seemed to some, had evolved over time. For Stephanie, visiting Mule Creek State Prison had become a regular part of her life. Conjugal visits were a privilege granted to inmates who had earned good behavior marks, designed to strengthen family bonds and aid in rehabilitation. For Stephanie, these visits weren't just about fulfilling a legal requirement. They were an opportunity to spend uninterrupted private time with the man she believed had transformed, despite the dark past that lingered in his history. On the night of November 13th, Stephanie arrived at Mule Creek for another overnight visit. But at approximately 2 a.m., something went terribly wrong. David Brinson called the prison authorities, his voice calm, yet tinged with urgency. He told the guards that Stephanie had collapsed and lost consciousness. According to him, she had passed out unexpectedly. He suggested she might have suffered a stroke or even a heart attack. His account painted the situation as a tragic accident, a sudden and inexplicable event that could happen to anyone. However, when the emergency responders arrived, they immediately sensed that something was amiss. There were no signs of a natural cause of death. Stephanie didn't appear to have fallen ill in any typical way. The prison staff quickly realized that David's version of events didn't match the evidence. By 2:51 a.m., just 51 minutes after David's call, Stephanie Dowells was pronounced dead. At first, the details were scarce, but as investigators examined the scene, the pieces of the puzzle began to shift. Despite David's claim that Stephanie had simply passed out, the physical evidence told a much different story. There were no signs of a medical emergency, no indication that Stephanie had collapsed due to any health issue. But 4 months later, in March 2025, the coroner's report would later confirm the worst of their fears. Stephanie had been strangled.
A notorious LA killer serving life in prison without the possibility of parole reportedly strangled his wife to death during a conjugal visit. 54-year-old David Brinson was convicted in the 1990 execution-style murders of 4 men in the Mid-Wilshire District. Authorities say last November, while at Mule Creek State Prison in Northern California, he told officers his 62-year-old wife Stephanie had passed out during a conjugal visit. She was declared dead at the scene. 4 months later, a coroner confirmed that she was strangled to death. The Amador County District Attorney is awaiting the prison's full report before filing charges against Brinson. Brinson has since been transferred to a state prison in Stockton.
The shockwave hit Stephanie's family like a tidal wave. A woman who had dedicated her life to caring for others, whose compassion and kindness had been her hallmark, was taken from them in the most brutal way possible. Her life, one filled with love, faith, and giving, had ended within the prison walls, at the hands of the very person she had believed could change. The revelation of her cause of death left her family in complete disbelief. How could this have happened? How could someone as trusting and loving as Stephanie have been left alone with a man like David Brinson? A man with a past filled with cold-blooded murder. The questions flooded their minds, and the sense of betrayal was overwhelming. How had the system failed her so terribly? The investigation into Stephanie's death would only raise more troubling questions, questions that would continue to grow as the search for answers deepened. David Brinson's violent past was impossible to overlook. His name had become synonymous with cold-blooded murder after he was convicted in 1993 for the brutal execution-style killings of 4 men during a robbery in Los Angeles. The crime was calculated, merciless, and left a deep scar not just on the city, but across the nation. 4 innocent lives were taken in the blink of an eye, extinguished by a man driven only by greed and a desire to survive, at any cost. Sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, David was supposed to spend the rest of his life behind bars. The system had handed down its verdict. A man who had taken so many lives would never again be allowed to hurt anyone. But over time, David found a way to manipulate the system, presenting himself as a man who had turned over a new leaf. In prison, David engaged in various self-improvement efforts, enrolling in educational programs and taking religious studies. To the outside world, he seemed to be reforming, trying to make amends for his past. But to Stephanie's family, this appeared to be another form of manipulation. They saw a man who had proven he could kill without hesitation, and no amount of good behavior could erase the darkness in his past. Despite his violent history, David was granted several privileges, including the controversial permission to have unsupervised conjugal visits. These visits were intended to foster relationships and promote rehabilitation, but to Stephanie's family, the idea that someone with David's past could be trusted with such privileges was beyond comprehension. How could the system allow a convicted murderer to be alone with his wife, with nothing but trust, between them. Her son, Armand Torres, couldn't hold back his frustration. How could they just let this happen? He asked, his voice shaking with grief. He wasn't just speaking for himself. His entire family shared the same pain and disbelief. Stephanie had been the foundation of their family, the one who kept them together, who made sure no one felt abandoned. Now, they were left reeling, struggling to make sense of a tragedy they could never have imagined. Stephanie's mother, Oveta Wilson, spoke of the incredible loss. She was the one who made sure we stayed connected, Oveta said, her voice full of both sorrow and pride. And now we're just broken. The family wasn't just mourning the loss of their beloved matriarch. They were devastated by the horrific way she had been taken from them. The man she had hoped could change had become the one to destroy her.
My mom was just left alone, and she, called for help, I'm sure. And there's nothing she could do.
Officials say the criminal investigation is still underway. So as of now, no one's been charged with Dowell's murder. But it happened during a family visit, which the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation website describes as a visit in private apartment-like facilities on prison grounds that can last approximately 30 to 40 hours.
In the aftermath, the hardest question of all lingered. Why did Stephanie trust David Brinson? But Stephanie's family couldn't deny the failure of the system that had allowed her death to happen. Her tragic death didn't have to unfold the way it did. It was a broken system that had allowed a man with such a violent past to have unsupervised access to someone as vulnerable as Stephanie. The system had failed to recognize the danger that was lurking just beyond the walls of a prison. A failure to protect someone who had trusted the very system meant to keep her safe. United in their grief and their demand for justice, Stephanie's family began to call for reforms to prison policies. They demanded stricter regulations that would protect those vulnerable to harm, just like Stephanie. They sought changes that would prevent inmates with violent histories from using the system for their own benefit, ensuring that no one else would fall victim to the same fate. But Stephanie Dowell's story is not just one of tragic loss. Her life, defined by her unwavering love, kindness, and deep faith, should never have ended the way it did. The legacy she left behind, filled with selflessness and compassion, continues to resonate with those who knew her best. Her family's fight for justice is far from over, but her legacy of love will never fade. They will carry her memory forward, determined to advocate for the changes needed to ensure that no one else suffers the same fate Stephanie did. As we reflect on Stephanie's tragic story, we can't help but ask, should individuals with violent criminal histories ever be trusted with unsupervised family visits? What changes need to be made in the system to better protect vulnerable people from situations like this? How much responsibility should fall on prison authorities when something like this occurs? Should the system be doing more to ensure the safety of visitors? Or is it time to reconsider how these visits are handled altogether? Stephanie believed in the power of redemption, but did she make a dangerous choice by trusting someone with such a violent past? Can everyone really change, or are there some histories that are too dark to ignore? What reforms do you think should be put in place to prevent situations like this from ever happening again? Should there be tighter restrictions on conjugal visits, or should there be more accountability for those who grant these privileges? We want to hear your thoughts. This is a conversation that needs to be had, and your voice is crucial. Drop your comments below. What do you think needs to change? If you found this story compelling, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video. Your support means so much to us, and we're just getting started. Stay informed, stay engaged,